All right, get ready because today we are going deep into a story that is uh, both fascinating and disturbing. We're talking H. Holmes, a name that is like synonymous with the dark side of the American dream, visionary entrepreneur, or just a cold-blooded con artist. Let's dig in and see what we can figure out.
I think is so captivating about H. Holmes is how he embodies this tension between ambition and deception. Was he like a product of his time,
Oh, yeah.
exploiting the growth and the chaos of 19th century America, or was there something more sinister going on?
We've got tons of sources to go through today. Articles, excerpts from biographies, even architectural plans of his murder castle. It's a creepy look into a mind that seems to like blur the lines between genius and pure evil.
And what is important for you to think about as we go through all this is how easily someone can manipulate how people see them. Holmes was so charming and persuasive, but underneath that was a darkness that no one could have imagined.
Okay, so let's start with his early life. Born Herman Webster Mudgett in New Hampshire. It seems like pretty normal beginnings, but some sources hint that things weren't as, how do I put it, idyllic as they appeared.
Yeah, that's where things start to get interesting. While there are a lot of different accounts, there's a consistent theme of a troubled childhood. His dad was known for discipline, bordering on abusive, and there are even mentions of using kerosene rags to keep the kids quiet.
Oh my gosh, that's awful to think
Wait.
that a child could be
Yeah.
treated like that. It makes you wonder if those early experiences shaped the man he became.
Yeah, it's impossible to say for sure, but some psychologists think that early trauma can really have a big impact. And there are accounts of Holmes acting strangely. Even as a kid, he was fascinated with death, dissected animals, and there's even that incident where he might have pushed a friend from a height.
Wait a minute. Intentionally pushing a friend. That's not just kids being kids. It almost seems like he was already testing boundaries, seeing what he could get away with. It's scary to think about.
Exactly. And this pattern seems to continue as he gets older. He ends up studying medicine at the University of Michigan. He was a brilliant student, but he also starts to be deceitful.
Yeah, the sources mention him stealing cadavers
Yeah.
from the university lab. Creepy for sure, but also pretty smart. He used his knowledge to fake their deaths and
Yeah.
collect insurance money. Talk about a twisted entrepreneur.
Exactly. That's a key point. We see intelligence, ambition, and no regard for ethics. It wasn't just about making money. It was about taking advantage of the system.
So it seems like he was already a con artist back then. But things get worse when he shows up in Chicago in 1886, right? So a city booming with opportunity, but also full of newcomers who could be taken advantage of.
Driven by ambition and probably wanting to escape his past. Holmes saw Chicago as the perfect place to start over. And that's what he did. Changed his name to H. Holmes. Bought a drugstore, but with much more sinister plans in mind. And those plans quickly become his infamous murder castle. He buys the land across from his drugstore, probably using money from his scams, and starts to build a building that becomes like a monument to his ambition.
It's like he was living a double life.
Yeah.
A respectable businessman,
Yeah.
but also this dark figure behind the scenes.
Exactly. And the timing was perfect. The World's Fair was about to transform Chicago, bringing millions of visitors. Holmes saw this as like a chance. All these potential victims he could manipulate.
Wow, it's creepy to think he did that on purpose. So tell us more about this this murder castle. What made it so terrifying?
It wasn't just a house. It was like a maze designed for deceit and destruction. Imagine secret passageways, trapdoors going to chutes that drop to the basement, soundproof rooms, and peepholes so he could spy on his guests. It was a death trap disguised as a hotel.
Oh my gosh. That's terrifying. And he built all this without anyone knowing.
Yeah. The construction was crazy. Holmes kept changing contractors and plans, probably to keep everyone from figuring out what he was doing. Even the workers didn't know the whole plan.
That's crazy. He was a master manipulator.
Yeah.
So how did he get people to go into this house?
He preyed on vulnerable people, offering them jobs, places to stay, even romantic relationships. Many were young women who were new in town, desperate for a new start. He seemed like a charming and successful businessman, almost like a savior, only to trap them in his deadly house.
Sounds like a typical con artist. Take advantage of people's dreams and hopes,
Yeah.
and then use their trust against them. I bet his medical knowledge made him even more convincing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He knew about the human body,
Yeah.
psychology, and the effects of different drugs. He could manipulate situations easily and make deaths look like accidents.
And we can't forget about his insurance scams. He was really good at creating these elaborate scams, even convincing people to help him fake their own deaths.
Yeah, the case of Benjamin Pitezel is a perfect example. Holmes got Pitezel to stage his own death for insurance money, even finding a dead body to use as Pitezel. He made it all look like an accidental death.
Wait, he found a random dead body. That's so creepy. But didn't the insurance company suspect anything?
Holmes was so careful, he faked documents, created fake identities, and changed every detail to make his stories believable. He was a master manipulator, playing on people's greed to get them involved in his schemes. But his greed would eventually be his downfall.
So he gets away with this huge insurance scam. But it doesn't stop there, right? This is where things get really dark.
Sadly, yes. Holmes convinces Pitezel's wife to let him take the 3 kids, promising to bring them to their dad, who was supposedly hiding. But Holmes actually murders the children.
That is just unbelievably cruel. He was playing with people's lives like it was nothing. How could anyone be so cold, so completely without empathy?
It's a question that people are still fascinated by and horrified by. Did he just not care? Was he obsessed with power? Or was he so focused on his schemes that human life didn't matter anymore?
Whatever it was,
Hmm.
it's obvious that his lies were falling apart. Despite all his planning, there were mistakes. So how did he finally get caught?
Persistence. Holmes couldn't hide forever. An insurance company was investigating another suspicious death, and that's what got him. He was arrested in Boston in 1894 for stealing a horse. But they quickly realized he was wanted for much worse crimes.
And as they investigated more, they found out about the murder castle. That must have been shocking for everyone. This respected businessman was actually a killer.
The press went crazy. Headlines called him all sorts of names, like Archfiend and Devil Incarnate. It was a huge story that both captivated and horrified the nation.
It's like something out of a horror movie. The charming doctor with a secret. A house of horrors. And during his trial for the Pitezel murders, Holmes confessed to 27 murders. But some people think the real number is even higher.
Yeah, we'll never know for sure how many victims there were. But the evidence they found in the murder castle is clear. Hidden rooms, trapdoors, even pieces of human remains.
It's just chilling to think that someone could seem so normal, but be so evil. That's the scary thing about con artists. They can trick you into believing anything.
Exactly. Holmes's case shows us that anyone can be evil, even if they seem charming. He took advantage of people's trust and hopes for his own gain.
So what can we learn from all of this? How can we tell who is a true visionary and who is just a con artist?
That's the big question. There's no easy answer. But Holmes' story shows us that we need to think critically, question people's motives, and not just be impressed by charm. Don't fall for promises that are too good to be true.
Trust your gut. If something seems wrong, it probably is. Do your research, ask questions, and don't be afraid to walk away.
And remember, real visionaries build and create and inspire. Con artists use and manipulate and destroy. If we understand their tricks, we can protect ourselves.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of H.H. Holmes, we want you to remember this. In a world where everyone is trying to get ahead, always be careful. Question everything, trust your instincts, and remember that things aren't always what they seem. The line between good and evil can be blurry, and we all need to stay aware.